been mind-boggling to think what he did to this 7-year-old little girl.
My entire life, you know, to lose her like this is like, I feel like I lost a piece of my soul.
So sad, but I have to be so strong. I really miss her.
It's really hard right now because in a moment like this, Miche would be my rock. She would be who I would go to.
I miss you every day because you was my sister. And Layla, you was so much my baby.
I honestly feel like they're failing my friend, you know, with him letting him being out. He already committed one murder, comes to a whole nother state and commits 2 more. And there was a baby. I don't feel like they did enough. There was no Amber Alert out for Layla. There was no nothing. We searched on ourselves. They didn't even find them on their own.
27-year-old Meshay Melendez was a single mother in Vancouver, Washington. She had a daughter named Layla. Layla was 7 years old. The two of them did everything together. Layla would sit on the bathroom counter while her mother did her hair before school. And Miche once told her sister she didn't know how she got blessed with such an amazing daughter. So when nobody had heard from Miche or Layla for almost a week in March of 2023, her family knew something was wrong. Miche didn't just disappear, and her 7-year-old daughter wasn't the kind of child who just vanished. By the time the police walked into Miche's apartment to do a welfare check, the two of them had already been missing for days. And what investigators would find over the next 10 days would expose a man with a violent history in 2 states. A justice system that had every warning sign in front of it and ignored every one of them. Before we get into today's story, this is Buzzed Crime. Drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss out on cases like this.
Bang, bang, choo-choo train, let me see you do your thing.
Meshay Melendez grew up in Vancouver, Washington, just across the Columbia River from Portland. Her family called her Carmen. That was the name her people knew her by. She was the kind of person who walked into a room and made it feel lighter. She had a soft voice, a quick laugh, and a way of making the people she loved feel like the most important person in the room. Her mother, Nicole, was the closest person to her in the world. They talked on the phone almost every day. Her brother Ricardo lived nearby. Her sister, also named Nicole, was the one she shared her quiet thoughts with. There was an aunt named Layla. There were cousins, grandmothers, uncles. Miche came from a big, tight, loud family that knew where each other was at all times. She had Layla when she was 20 years old. From the moment Layla was born, Miche's whole life shifted. Friends said she was a different person after she became a mother. Calmer, more focused. Everything she did for her daughter. Layla's father, Javante, was in the picture. They co-parented. They didn't always get along, but they kept it civil for Layla's sake. Most of the time, Layla was with her mom. Layla was in the 1st grade. She had wide eyes and a small smile that turned into a big one when she was around her mother. She loved animals. She had a kitten named Rocky who showed up in almost every video Miche posted online. Miche's mother said Layla probably would have been a supermodel if she'd been given the chance to grow up. Layla wasn't given that chance. Her Aunt Layla said it best, after everything had happened. She said Layla was full of life and potential. She said her niece had been taken away in a moment of senseless violence. Sometime in 2022, Miche met a man named Kirkland Warren. He was 26 years old. He was tall. He had a calm way of talking. He told her he was separated from his wife. He told her he was working things out with his life. He told her a lot of things. What he didn't tell her was that he was out on bail for a murder. To understand who Kirkland Warren was, you have to go back 6 years before he ever met Miche, to a small city in southeast Arkansas called Pine Bluff. Kirkland grew up in Pine Bluff. His father, Donald Warren, had been an attorney and a judge in Jefferson County, Arkansas. In 2009, Donald Warren resigned from the bench while facing allegations of misconduct, including second-degree forgery, abuse of office, and attempted theft of property. That was the household Kirkland came up in. A father who had once worn a robe and ended up surrounded by criminal accusations. 5 years went by. In that 5 years, Kirkland left Arkansas. He moved to Vancouver, Washington. He got married to a woman named Monet Tyler Warren. They had 2 daughters. Monet worked at a credit union in Portland, and then he met Miche. The relationship between Kirkland and Miche was not normal. Friends saw it from the start. He was charming and he was controlling. He was attentive and he was suffocating. He told her he was leaving his wife. He moved in and out of her life. December 20th, 2022, was the day Kirkland Warren came to her apartment with a gun. Kirkland fired shots at Miche's balcony window while she was looking outside. Miche called 911. A friend who was there backed up her account. Then, in February of 2023, Miche tried to take it back. She told the investigators she had lied. She told them she and her friend had mental health and substance abuse issues. She told them she had made the whole thing up. She asked the police to please not arrest him. The Vancouver police didn't drop it. They kept building the case. And on March 2nd, 2023, they arrested Kirkland Warren on charges of second-degree domestic violence assault, drive-by shooting, making threats to kill, harassment, and possession of a stolen firearm. The prosecutor stood up in court and told the judge that Kirkland posed an extreme risk to Miche's safety. They had run a domestic violence danger assessment on him. The scale only goes up to 18. Anything above an 18 is considered extreme risk of lethality. Kirkland Warren scored a 31. The judge set bail at $100,000 and issued a domestic violence no-contact order. Miche was not to be contacted by Kirkland under any circumstances, not in person, not by phone, not by text, not through anybody else. Within hours of being booked into the Clark County Jail, Kirkland called Miche from inside. He told her she was the reason he was in jail. He told her she needed to get the charges dropped. He told her she had to fix this. He bonded out later that same day. On March 6th, prosecutors hauled him back into court for violating the no-contact order. The judge raised his bail and ordered a GPS ankle monitor. The GPS monitor was never put on him. The case got moved over to a hearing. The hearing went sideways. The new charges were dismissed. Kirkland walked out of jail without a tracker on his ankle. 4 days later, Miche and Leila were last seen alive. Around 5 a.m. on March 12, 2023. Miche and Leila were at the apartment of an acquaintance. The plan was for Leila to stay there while Miche went somewhere with Kirkland. Leila was used to this. Kirkland had been in her life. He had taken her to school before. She trusted him. She thought of him almost like family. Miche left with Kirkland. They came back around 8 a.m. the next day. The friend who was watching Leila looked out and saw the car pulling up. It was a Dodge Charger. Kirkland was at the wheel. The music was loud. Miche was in the passenger seat. She was passed out. She was naked from the waist down. The friend reached into the car to turn the music down. Kirkland yelled at her to close the door. Then he got out of the car. He walked into the apartment. He picked up Leila. He carried her out. He put her in the back of the car next to her mother. Kirkland drove away. That was the last time anybody saw Miche or Leila alive. For 6 days, nobody heard from them.
Yeah, Brittany, I spoke to them within the last hour or so, and tell you what, they just light up talking about Miche and Leila, the two described as having so much energy and being the life of the party, and that really explains why family is so distraught over their disappearance. The two were last seen in this neighborhood near Northeast 77th Avenue and Vancouver Mall Drive in Vancouver, of course. And the person who was with them was Miche's boyfriend, who is now a person of interest in this case.
There's always somebody that knows something.
A plea for information about Meshay Melendez and Layla Stewart. The Vancouver mother and daughter have been missing for more than a week. Family is beyond concern.
It's been since last Sunday since anybody heard, seen, or talked to my daughter and granddaughter.
I'm missing a whole part of me. It's my sister and that's my niece. We don't know where they're at.
Miche and Leila were last seen March 12th near Northeast 77th Avenue and Vancouver Mall Drive. According to court documents, a friend saw the two with Miche's boyfriend, Kirkland Warren. The friend says Miche was unconscious and naked from the waist down.
Miche's mother called and called. The phone went to voicemail. She called Miche's friends. Nobody had seen her. She drove past Miche's apartment. The lights were off. She drove past again. Still nothing. This was not Miche. Miche called her mother every day. Miche told her family where she was. On March 18th, Nicole called the police and reported them missing. Officers went to the apartment for a welfare check. They could hear Miche's dog barking inside. They got in. The dog was there. Miche and Leila were not. The next day, Miche's mother went out looking for her daughter on her own. She drove around the neighborhoods Miche knew, and she found it. Miche's car. Abandoned in a neighborhood not far from where Miche had been the night she disappeared. The police seized the car. Inside, they found blood in the front and back seats. They found Miche's purse with her ID still in it. They found children's clothes that matched what Leila had been wearing. And they found .22 caliber shell casings on the floor. The same caliber that had been used on Curtis Urquhart in Arkansas 6 years earlier. That same day, the police executed a search warrant on Kirkland Warren's home and on his Dodge Charger. They arrested him on charges of tampering with a witness, violating the no-contact order, unlawful possession of a firearm, and assault.
Hey, show me your hands, it's the police. Put your hands on top of your head and raise your fingers. Listen, you are under arrest for a violation, okay? Do you understand?
When they searched him, they found Miche's phone in his possession. He was the last person to have it. He was the last person to have her. While Kirkland sat in custody, the detectives kept digging. They pulled his phone records. Between March 13th and March 15th, the days right after Miche and Leila disappeared, Kirkland had texted a friend asking if she knew of any secluded areas nearby. He asked about places in the woods. He asked about places where he could bury a gun. On March 15th, he had used Miche's phone to transfer $4,200 from her bank account into his own. On March 18th, the same day Miche and Leila were reported missing, he texted another friend saying he needed to get rid of a stolen car. Then they pulled his Google search history. How to get blood out of a car seat. How to beat murder. Killing the only witness. 6 years earlier in Arkansas, after he killed Curtis Urquhart, Kirkland had reportedly searched some of the same things. He hadn't learned. He had just done it again. On March 22nd, 2023, 10 days after Miche and Leila were last seen, a person was walking their dog on a rural road outside Washougal, on the Washington side of the Washington-Oregon border. They saw something down an embankment near a creek. From a distance, it looked like two life-sized mannequins propped against the slope. They called the Clark County Sheriff's Office.
On Wednesday morning, the Clark County Sheriff's Office got a call from someone who was walking on this rural road in Washougal. The caller described what they believed to be two life-sized mannequins down an embankment near a creek. But when deputies arrived on scene, they discovered two bodies. Investigators contacted Vancouver police, who determined this was likely Meshay Melendez and Layla Stewart.
This is probably our missing mother and daughter. The major crimes unit from the sheriff's office is kind of handling the investigation as a homicide investigation, so detectives and crime scene folks are up there.
A Washington State Patrol forensics team joined the investigation, collecting evidence and speaking with neighbors on Southeast Wooding Road, which was roped off for hours.
Deputies arrived. They went down the embankment. What the dog walker had seen was not mannequins. It was Miche and Leila. Both of them had been shot in the head. Miche had been shot once. Leila had been shot twice. They had been left in the ditch like they were nothing, like they were trash. The medical examiner determined that Leila had been sexually assaulted before she was killed. DNA recovered from her body was sent to the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab. The DNA was a match to Kirkland Warren. Miche had been 27 years old. Leila had been 7. They had been disposed of by the side of a back road in a county neither one of them lived in. By a man Miche had once trusted. A man Leila had once smiled at. The day the bodies were found, an Arkansas judge had already revoked Kirkland's bond in the Curtis Urquhart case. 5 years too late, but the bond was finally pulled. Kirkland appeared in Clark County Superior Court that same day to answer the Arkansas warrant. He admitted he was the person Arkansas wanted, but he refused to waive extradition. The judge ordered him held without bail. By the time the sun set on March 22, 2023, Kirkland Warren was being held in a Washington jail for 2 murders, with a 3rd murder waiting for him in Arkansas. He was charged in Vancouver with first-degree aggravated murder for the killing of Leila, second-degree murder for the killing of Miche, and first-degree child molestation. In November of 2023, he was arraigned on an additional charge of child rape. He pleaded not guilty to all of it. For more than a year, his case moved through the system. Prosecutors signaled they were going to call 77 witnesses at trial. The trial was expected to last weeks. Miche's family prepared themselves for it. They prepared themselves to sit in a courtroom and listen to every detail of how the people they loved had died. Then, on September 5th of 2024, 4 days before the trial was set to begin, Kirkland Warren took a plea. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for killing Miche. He pleaded guilty to first-degree aggravated murder for killing Leila. And he entered an Alford plea to the charge of first-degree child molestation. He didn't want to say what he had done to a 7-year-old girl out loud. On October 8th, 2024, Kirkland Warren stood in front of Judge David Gregerson in Clark County Superior Court for sentencing. The courtroom was full. Miche's family had tied purple balloons to the pillars outside the building. One by one, the people who had loved Miche and Leila stood up to speak. Miche's mother, Nicole, sent a written statement to be read in court by a victim advocate. She said the day she lost them, she lost a part of herself. She said a part of her had died with her girls. She said she was no longer a girl mom. She said she was no longer a grandmother. Video cue, family victim impact statements being read in court. Miche's sister, Nicole Harris, stood up next. She looked toward Kirkland and she spoke directly. She said Miche and Leila may not have been anything to that evil man, but they were everything to her. She said Miche had once told her she didn't know how she got blessed with such an amazing daughter. And she said she had reminded Miche it was because Miche herself was such a beautiful soul. Leila's aunt Lashay Gates spoke next. Her voice broke. She said her niece was full of life and potential, taken away in a moment of senseless violence. She said our family has been torn apart by grief and the endless questions that haunt us every day. Why? She said she could not make any more memories. She said the 7 years was all she had. And she said it was all because of Kirkland Warren, and she wanted him to suffer every single day. Through all of it, Kirkland kept his head down. He showed almost no emotion. He sentenced Kirkland Warren to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As Kirkland was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, people in the gallery shouted at him. They called him a child molester. They called him a coward. He kept his head down. He didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, the family released the purple balloons into the sky. One slipped from a hand before they were ready, before everyone was set to let go together. Somebody said that one was either Miche or Leila. 2 years after Miche and Leila were buried, on the anniversary of the day their bodies were found, the family gathered again. A friend named Tara Verde Trejo said she still remembered the moment they got the news. She said she still remembered the knock on the door. She said she still remembered the cry that came out of Nicole's mouth when they told her her daughter and granddaughter would not be coming back. They are still searching for answers. They are still asking why he didn't have the ankle monitor on. Hundreds of people came out to a vigil at Esther Short Park in Vancouver in the days after Miche and Layla's bodies were found. Layla's first-grade classmates were there. Children too young to understand what had happened to one of their friends. People who had never met Miche or Leila came out anyway, just to stand and hold a candle in the cold March air. The community wrapped its arms around the family. Meshay Melendez was 27 years old. Layla Stewart was 7 years old. They lived in Vancouver, Washington. They danced together on TikTok. They went to the grocery store together. Leila had a kitten named Rocky and a smile that lit up every room she walked into. Miche was the one who got her ready for school in the morning. Miche was the one who made her feel safe. They should still be here. A mother who once said she didn't know how she got blessed with such an amazing daughter. A daughter who was full of life and potential. 2 people who loved each other completely. 2 people who were taken in a moment of senseless violence by a man the system had every reason to keep behind bars and let go anyway. May Meshay Melendez and Layla Stewart rest in peace. If you found this case informative, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. New cases are uploaded regularly. And as always, stay aware, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.